The sinking of the Admiral Von Tromp. Whitby's coastline is famed for its Arctic winds, whale excursions, fossil hunting and fishing. However, they hold another wonder beyond Whitby's headland, on Saltwick Bay. The wreck of the 1976 trawler, the Admiral Von Tromp. Semi-submerged just off the coast, this modern trawler piques the curiosity of all who see it. However, such curiosity is hard to satisfy, as the more you learn about its sinking, the more curious it becomes. On October 30th, 1976, skipper Frankie Tarl and crew boarded the vessel and set off from Scarborough Harbour, on course for Barnacle Bay, 45 miles away. Seeing them off was the pierman of the West Pier, Mr. Walter Sheeder, who recalled their departure as nothing out of the ordinary, with the crew being sober. Captaining the boat was John Addison, a trusty seaman with many years' experience behind the wheel. Therefore, it is reported that Tarl found everything was fine when he checked on him before heading to bed, safe in the knowledge the ship was in good hands and he'd be awoken when they reached their destination. This is not what happened, however, and instead Tarl and the other sleeping crew members were awoken with a start, as the vessel was bumping into rocks and heeling over off of Black Nab on Saltwick Bay. Thinking the boat had been run down, John Martin ran to check with Addison. Upon seeing the rocks, he screamed, "What the hell are you doing?" To which he received a horrifying response. There, in the wheelhouse, was Addison, hands clasped on the wheel, looking back at Martin in stunned silence. Tarl soon entered the wheelhouse, prying Addison away from the wheel to make valiant attempts to save the boat before sending out a mayday. As each attempt failed, panic ensued. As the boat began to fill with water, Tarl tried to anchor the boat while the crew put on their life jackets. The boat, now sinking in thick fog, was battling the sea as it threatened to break the stern. With the boat heeling over, Tarl ordered the crew to hang onto the starboard side, but the sea was too heavy. Quickly, the men gathered in the wheelhouse. This would only keep them protected for an hour, however, before the water slowly filled the room until their heads were colliding with the ceiling. When rescuers arrived, the men had to escape through an open window, with Tarl helping each crew member out before himself, all except one, John Addison, who had already drowned in the wheelhouse. Meanwhile, the Whitby lifeboat tried 7 times to get near the sinking vessel. The coxswain of the lifeboat, Robert William Allen, got in contact with the skipper and tried to coordinate a rescue, but the heavy seas and fog meant they couldn't reach the crew in the wheelhouse. However, the rescue was no easier when the men fled the flooding room. With George Eaves atop the wheelhouse, he soon became victim to a large wave that swept him away. This was sadly the last the skipper saw of him. The heavy waves did not stop, and soon every crew member was pushed from the vessel. Tarl was thrown a line by the Coast Guard, but had no strength left to catch it. Tarl was soon within reach of the inshore lifeboat, and was thankfully saved after attracting their attention by blowing the whistle on his life jacket. The other survivors were fortunate too, and found themselves washed ashore, all baffled by the events of that night, and left mourning the loss of 2 of their crewmates. Since that night, the surviving crew members, their families and the townspeople have tried desperately to understand what happened. Local weather reports were researched, though provided no answers, only more questions. You see, the weather was not bad despite the fog. The fog was of no concern, however, for the boat was to head along in a straight path, as Captain Abbey from the Coast Guard discovered after charting the boat's course. The vessel had few and no reason to stray from this path. However, Abby's finding revealed the location of the Von Tromp sinking was 90 degrees off course, revealing that the boat had to have been steered off of course deliberately. So, why did Addison do it? The crew were sober, and he was trusted. Alan Marston spoke with Addison after the incident. On looking stunned and unable to act, Addison simply looked at him and said, "Oh, Alan," in a quiet, apologetic voice. With such unusual mannerisms in steering the vessel off course, and appearing powerless to save it or his crewmates, some question what supernatural forces could have possessed John Addison that night. Was he distracted by something lurking beneath the waves? Or maybe he was being called to the rocks by an unforgiving creature? Or was the wreckage simply a result of human error, like falling asleep at the wheel? The only person with the answers took them to his grave. The Staithes Sirens. 20 minutes down the coast from Whitby is the fishing town of Staithes. Our next tale takes place before the town became the fishing town it is today. Back then, it was much smaller, with a close-knit community and a few fishermen. However, these fishermen caught something no one who came after had ever seen: a mermaid. And they caught not just one, but two. One dark, stormy night, the seas raged and the waves were merciless, rising high and crashing hard, throwing whatever was unfortunate enough to be held within their grasp into the rocks. The thought of being caught in such a wave was enough to shake even the best swimmers to their core. Two unfortunate mermaids found themselves caught in such a situation. No matter how hard the mermaids tried, they were no match for the power of the waves and were repeatedly thrown into the rocks, marring their bodies. Their only hope was that the waves would take them onto the nearby beach, where they could wait out the rest of this awful storm. As luck would have it, the next series of waves did just that. Landing on Staithes Beach, the two mermaids, tired and bruised, nursed their wounds and watched the raging sea, before falling asleep out of harm's way. Or so they thought. As the storm passed, the local fishermen ventured onto the beach to check the damage done to their boats and nets. However, what awaited them was more shocking than any damage could be. There, on the sand, were the two mermaids, huddled together, still sound asleep, recovering from the traumatic night. The fishermen, horrified by the unusual creatures before them, threw their fishing nets to capture the potential threat. The mermaids suddenly awoke in a panic and desperately tried to free themselves from the nets. Seeing the white faces of the men backing away from them, the mermaids frantically started pleading with the onlookers, ensuring them that they meant no harm. Though their words were true, the scared townsfolk wouldn't listen. They stared and gossiped amongst themselves. Unsure of what to do, but unwilling to release them, the townspeople kept the mermaids imprisoned. More people came to see the unusual beached creatures. Some stared from the distance out of fear, others would throw stones at them, and a few tried to speak with them. The scared mermaids faced each encounter with cries of distress and pleas for help. They remained captured for months, hoping day after day to be returned to the sea. Over some time, the townspeople came to pity them, believing them to be the gentle beings that they'd claimed to be. Such people brought food and gifts to the mermaids and would sit and speak with the pair. In time, everyone grew accustomed to their abnormal appearance, and less stones were thrown as a result. As the mermaids' presence in the town became normal, more people would begin speaking with them. One of these curious individuals was a fisherman working beside the mermaids' netted prison. After sharing pleasant conversation, the mermaids charmed him into allowing them a moment of freedom. Finally, after so long, he freed the pair, and they were able to return to their saltwater home. Seizing the opportunity, the pair swam for their freedom and never looked back. The mermaids have never been seen again on the Yorkshire shores, but have never been forgotten by the fishing town, where many still believe that they are still out there, safely hidden under the waves. Hobs, boggarts and bogles. The cliffs of Whitby haven't only been witness to shipwrecks and mermaids. The caves hidden amongst them are rumoured to be home to hobgoblins. Also called hobs, bogles and boggarts, these goblin-like creatures are known to inhabit the coasts and moorland areas. The name hob has been used as a synonym for devil, which leaves one with images of evil creatures leaving a path of sorrow and destruction in their wake. However, the tales of these hobs are not so fearsome. Commonly referred to as mischievous beings who are often bad-tempered, the hobs are known to be household nuisances. When a hob is seeking a home, human houses appear rather appealing. There's food, warmth and entertainment inside. Hiding from the human inhabitants is like a long game of hide and seek. When one leaves belongings unattended, taking them is a generous hint that a hob is present in their home. If the home has livestock, the hob is even more pleased, for animals are easy to startle, and watching them run amok provides hours of entertainment. Such a fine home is perfect for the hob. Fresh milk, however, is not allowed in a hob hole, and as such, any home with a hob experiences milk turning sour overnight. It is said to be near impossible to remove a hob from your home. Many have even tried to move, but a home without humans takes the fun out of it. Long ago, a farmer and his family in Farndale found himself in such a predicament. Tired of awaking to sour milk and falling victims to other such tricks, the family was enraged and they saw no other choice but to pack up their things and leave. So early one morning, when the hobgoblin was most likely asleep, the family loaded their wagon and set off for their new home. A few miles into their travel, the family ran into a friend who cheerfully exclaimed, "Well, I see you're flitting." Smiling back, the optimistic family were about to reply, when from inside a milk churn, a voice replied for them, "Oh yes, we're flitting." There, in the milk churn, was the hobgoblin smirking at the family. The family, whose excited smiles were replaced with defeated long faces as they turned back, realized what all now know, that there's no escaping a hobgoblin. Such resistance to leave may even be what led to the goblin's influence on village names in and around Yorkshire, such as Boggle Hole just outside Whitby. However, some who have lived alongside Hobs disagree with this narrative and provide an alternative understanding of the hobgoblin. These locals say it once was believed that every dale had a hobgoblin, hence the village hob-inspired names. Mainly attached to farmers and families, these hobgoblins were said to help with farming and household chores. They would work extremely hard and incredibly fast. Doing it all in secret, the hob would expect no reward for their actions. However, it became common courtesy for those who believe a hob to be helping them to leave a fresh jug of cream in the barn every night. The mischievous and bad-tempered side of such creatures would only come out if they were upset or underappreciated. This would occur if a person spied on them, gave them clothes as gifts, or asked them to do tasks that weren't necessary, amongst other things. So farmers made sure to appreciate them to avoid permanent bad-tempered additions to the family. Overall, while hobs were remembered best for their mischievous deeds, they can be helpful creatures. One hob in particular is best known for helping many families throughout the town. The hob of Hob Hole differs from most, as not only was he not a nasty spirit by any means, but he did not seek out just one family to call his home. Just outside of Runswick Bay is the hole in the cliff that the hob called home. The hole was dark and oozed an awful stench that stopped fishermen going anywhere near it. However, if they were to venture inside, they would find a happy hob who, despite his unsettling appearance, was actually very friendly. A long time ago, when the nearby town was plagued with the whooping cough illness, the townsfolk faced losing many children. Often mistaken for a cold or the flu in early stages, they went about treating this illness in much the same way. However, this didn't work, and families became fearful. As the illness rapidly spread throughout the town, the distinctive whooping sound those affected made when they coughed struck panic in parents. Desperate to find a way to cure their child, many mothers sought alternative medicines when all else had proven ineffective. It was this search that led one mother to the cliffs in search of the hob. This creature was known to possess some powers after all. Confronting the odour and braving the hob, the mother walked through the dark hole. Deep in the hole, he waited, listening to her footsteps echo along through the walls. When he saw the mother, his eyes did not meet hers, for he was staring at the child in her arms, who slowly opened their mouth and let out an awful whooping sound. The mother began to beg the hob for help, hoping he knew of some way to heal her baby. She was in luck. The hob revealed he could heal the child, and to her surprise quickly agreed to do so. The hob's healing powers took away the child's cough, and with it, the fears of their mother. Thrilled, the mother rushed to tell others of the miraculous powers of the healing hob in the hole. Soon, every mother in town began making the journey across the rocks to the hole to confront the odour and meet the hob. With every mother's request, a child's life was saved by the hob, as he never refused or asked for payment. The illness was soon erased from the town thanks to the hob in the hole, and the townsfolk remained eternally grateful. However, with modern medicine, it is understandable why mothers no longer seek him out to cure their child's whooping cough. Therefore, not much is known what became of the hob of Hob Hole. Some claim to have seen the hob around Runswick Bay to this day, while others claim that the hobs of folklore were entirely made up by smugglers who created the tales to keep people away from the caves they used for storage, believing the tale to then have become a household excuse for losing possessions or having a run of bad luck. Either way, one thing is for sure: the hobs have not been forgotten, and the hob of Hob Hole will always be remembered for saving the town's children. Old Cathy. The Yorkshire Moors are often surrounded in mystery. It is easy to believe the vast countryside holds secrets and is home to creatures of folklore and recluse witches. One witch, known for her strolls along the moors in the 1700s, is Old Cathy, or Catty in some variations of her tale. While her name may change, the story does not, and visitors of the Whitby Museum will also know her face. The museum is home to the only artifact relating to the witch, a clay doll made in her image. The doll is believed to be from the collection of a local headmaster. Unfortunately, there is no other accurate information on its origins. Yet this has not stopped Cathy's tale becoming famous amongst the locals. In Ruswarp, just outside of Whitby, was a humble cottage, whose door opened for no one but Cathy. This was because she was feared throughout the local towns, as people believed if anyone came across the witch, they would be in serious danger. Referenced in books such as Eileen Rennison's Yorkshire Witches, old Cathy was said to have many demons and familiars that she would call upon to bring misfortune to those who crossed her. Such beliefs prevented anyone from approaching, let alone befriending Cathy, and so she would stroll the moors without interruption. Until one day. That day, a travelling peddler selling household goods was passing over the moors, unaware of the legend of Cathy. His name was Abe Rogers, and when he came across the rumoured witch that day on those moors, he quickly learned why they were alone. Though no one knows how it happened or why, the two got into a vicious quarrel. As they fought, their rage intensified, and before Abe knew it, Cathy was brandishing a knife. However, just as quickly as she tried to stab him, Abe knocked the knife from her hand. Cathy was knocked to the floor, and Abe was threatening to choke her if she did not stop. Cathy did not stop, however. Instead, she showed Abe why she was feared in the local towns, summoning words unfamiliar to Abe. Suddenly, a dozen imps were surrounding them, closing in on him and causing him to drop Cathy in response. As she stumbled to her feet, Cathy shouted to her demonic friends, "Don't let him get away." Though when she stood tall to watch her enemy fall before her, her eyes widened. There, Abe stood, calm and unfazed. What Cathy did not know was that Abe was not solely a peddler of household goods, but also of strange spices. Such spices are why he was rumoured to also be a warlock, something Cathy's demon friends were about to discover. Reaching into his bag, Abe pulled out some of these spices and threw them over his shoulder. This created a whirlwind to appear that blinded not only them but Cathy as well, which Abe gladly took advantage of. He struck down each demon with his knife before leaving the moors. From then on, Cathy treated Abe with respect. Strangely enough, this solidified a friendship between the two, allowing Abe to become the first person other than Cathy to enter the humble cottage in Ruswarp, which he frequently visited from then on. The Hand of Glory. Witches have often been the source of much curiosity and mystery around the world, but one story native to Whitby relates to a severed hand on display in the Whitby Museum. Defined in legend as a hand of glory, the hand was donated to the museum in 1935 by stonemason and local historian Joseph Ford, and is allegedly the only one remaining of its kind in the world today. This hand, like others of its kind, is the right hand of a felon, cut off from the body while the body still hung from the gallows. The inscription accompanying the hand in the museum outlines this process, saying, "It must be cut from the body of a criminal on the gibbet, pickled in salt and the urine of man, woman, dog, horse and mare, smoked with herbs and hay for a month, hung on an oak tree for 3 nights running, then laid at a crossroads, then hung on a church door for 1 night, while the Maker keeps watch in the porch. And if it be that no fear hath driven you forth from the porch, then the hand be true one, and it be yours. Such hands were the tools of thieves, and how exactly they worked is open for debate. Some say the thieves would sneak into their chosen building and hide the hand. Then, when darkness came, the hand would awake and either steal the target itself or crawl to the door and scale it to unlock the handle and give access to the thief. Others say the thieves would send the hand in to put the building's occupiers into a coma from which they were unable to wake. This final version is most consistent with the hand in the Whitby Museum. In this version, the clenched hand is used as a candle holder, and in the case of the museum's hand, the fingers of the outstretched hand are lit, and it was believed that when one finger wouldn't light, it was a sign that someone in the house was still awake. In either case, it was said that the light of the Hand of Glory was unable to be extinguished in any way other than by using blood or skimmed milk. The way in which the hand was used is all we know about the hand donated to the museum. However, stories of other such hands being used are common across Europe in the last 400 years. One such tale took place at the long-gone Spittal Inn in North Yorkshire Moors in 1797. On that cold night, as the old Spittal Inn was closing, a heavily dressed hag arrived at the door seeking warmth from their large fire. She pleaded with the bar staff to allow her inside, promising to take her leave when she had warmed up. As it was cold and so late, the staff took pity on the woman and allowed her inside. Moments after entering, the woman placed herself in the seat closest to the flickering fire. One maid could not shake the feeling that there was something off about the new arrival. After studying her more closely, the maid saw that the hag had men's trousers on under her skirt, and her suspicions were confirmed. When everyone had retired to bed, and the hag sat wringing her hands by the fire, the maid pretended to fall asleep. Soon enough, the hag arose from the chair and removed their costume to reveal a small man holding a hand of glory. The maid watched silently as the man lit the taper gripped between the frozen fingers and chanted, "Let those who sleep, sleep on, and let those who are awake stay awake." Then, he placed the hand on the table in front of him, before walking towards the door to let his accomplices in. However, before allowing them in, the man stepped outside, and the quick-thinking maid seized her moment. She ran to the door and slammed it shut, locking the men outside. She knew this wouldn't keep them out for long, though, and raced upstairs to wake the owners of the house. It was too late, for the power of the hand had already taken effect, and the owners couldn't be awoken. From downstairs, the sounds of the men beating at the door could be heard. As the sound grew louder, the door got closer to giving way. Luckily, the maid, remembering the tradition of the Hand of Glory, was already running down the stairs and into the kitchen. After retrieving a bottle of milk, she made her way to the table holding the hand. Not wanting to get too close to the cursed object, she threw the milk over the burning candle. In an instant, the flame was extinguished, and the sleeping owners awoken. The thieves quickly scarpered upon hearing sounds of the owner's gun. From this day on, the hand was retained as a curiosity until its disappearance in the following years. This is not the only famed Hand of Glory to disappear mysteriously from a community. In Wiltshire, another hand was uncovered during renovations of the once Haunch of Venison public house in 1911. The story goes that night the local butcher attending the pub for a night of gambling lost many times and became suspicious of another man at the table. Naturally, he accused him of cheating but not in the way you'd expect. Instead, thinking the man to have supernatural aid, he cut off the accused man's hand and threw it into the fire. This is believed to have been the Hand of Glory discovered those many years later, that was displayed in a glass case at a local museum alongside a deck of 18th century cards. What is even more peculiar is that this hand was reportedly stolen in 2010 and was never recovered. Similarly, in St. Brigida's Catholic Church, Westphalia, Germany, a Hand of Glory was discovered preserved in limestone. This hand was displayed to show others the consequences of telling lies, for this was the alleged reason for its severing. However, following Legden's community fundraiser to have the hand identified at Dusseldorf University, the hand, like the one previously mentioned, was reported stolen in 2012. These disappearances have only fueled the rumours of the Hand of Glory being an object of indescribable power, whilst also leaving the hand in Whitby Museum as the only one still on display in the UK, and allegedly the world. Humpty Dumpty's grave. The Hand of Glory and the Doll of Old Cathy aren't the only objects of folklore residing in Whitby. Atop the headland, in front of St. Mary's Church, stands its mysterious graveyard. While many of the graves have eroded and their markings faded, there lies one more famous than any other. An oval-shaped stone lying face down in the ground. This stone has sparked chatter amongst people for years. Without any legible markings, the shape and size of the large headstone are all to base speculations on. This is what has led many to believe this grave is that of Humpty Dumpty. The nursery rhyme of the same name goes as follows. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. While many believe this rhyme to be a riddle for which the answer is an egg, hence the rhyme becoming synonymous with the caricature of an egg, the origins of it are unknown. Some argue Humpty Dumpty to be a sly allusion at King Richard III, while others believe it to be the name of a cannon. It is the cannon such speculators believe to be buried underneath the large oval stone outside St. Mary's Church. As royalists have claimed, a cannon of this name was used in the English Civil War from 1642 to 1651. In this theory, the cannon was placed atop a defensive wall and was struck down when the wall was hit by the enemy, leaving the large heavy cannon broken into pieces and unable to be put together again. Since the nursery rhyme's origins are not entirely known, neither is the town in which the cannon fell. Therefore, many ask why it could not have fallen in Whitby and buried on site, and marked with a face-down oval-shaped grave that can still be seen today.